Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. First off, I'd like to apologize because after I made the last recording, I synced everything up, sent the blast out, and I assumed that everything had recorded correctly and that you guys had access to the last episode. But I just got on the mic right now, had a look at the old episodes, and I just figured out that the last episode, for some reason, didn't attach. The audio didn't attach, and so you just had a link that was there with the notes that were there, but it didn't link to any audio. So apologies to those of you who are my regular listeners who got on your listening app and tried to listen and nothing was there. So what I'm going to do is to re-record what should have been the last episode. I'll just riff on those issues again, and hopefully this time we shouldn't have any problems. And not to give myself a pat on the back, but so far we're close to 150 episodes, and this is the first time that we've had this problem. So hopefully this is not something that is going to reoccur. And maybe in the future when I have quite a bit of money, I'll put some more professional thought behind this. Have actual sound guys, people to have to handle the recording and the editing and the uploading and everything that goes along with building a podcast. But until then, I'll just keep on doing it solo and keep roughing it the way that we have been doing so far for over 100 episodes. So the last recording that I attempted to make anyway was going to be some more ideas about the working definition approach for professionalism and what are the best practices and standards that we can get from that. So for those of you who have been listening for a while, you'll be familiar with my working definition idea of professionalism. That's to define professionalism by looking to Nigerian parents and what they mean when they say, I want you to be a professional, or I want you to study a professional course. Because pretty much when the Nigerian mom or dad says that, what they mean is they want you to study law, accounting, medicine, and engineering. And I think that's a nice, rough and handy way to deal with the question of what professionalism is and what professional standards are, because not only is it something that we all can relate to per se, because when your father says a professional course, it's clear what he means. He doesn't have to spell that out. So apart from that, Nigerian professional courses, in quote, already have established best practices that cut across the board and they work well with everyone. So you'll find that what lawyers say is professional, what accountants say is professional, what doctors say is professional, and what engineers say is professional, you will find that they apply to pretty much everybody else. So if you want to be a professional carpenter, you can listen to what the lawyer says. If you want to be a professional bake maker, you can listen to what the doctor says. And if you want to be a professional, wedding MC, you can pay attention to what engineers say about what being professional is. Now, on the surface of it, this might seem like a really hard thing to grasp, and some of you might not agree with it. But if we pass it out, take it slowly, and look at one item at a time, then I'm sure we're going to be able to come to some agreement. Now, the first two ways that I approached in the last recording, and that I'll do now, with the area of dress and punctuality. So, let us not take it that the lawyer's professional way of dressing is the way that a wedding planner should dress. But you will find that with all these courses, there is the idea that a professional has to dress a certain way. So a lawyer should dress a certain way, an accountant should dress a certain way, a doctor should dress a certain way, and an engineer should dress a certain way. So for law and medicine, these are determined kind of by convention. So lawyers, we have our ceremonial garb, we have the wig, we have the gown, the funny pocket on the back of your gown, What else? Black and white, business shoes, and all of that. And then for medicine, it's the same. Regardless of whether they are dressed in a business way or in a semi-formal way, doctors typically have those immaculately white, I don't know what they're called, overalls or whatever. And then when they are in the theater, when they happen to be operating, then it's not just a matter of convention, but it's also a matter of health and safety, about how the kind of footwear that they can wear there, the kind of clothes that they can wear there, whether they can wear any jewelry, and what have you. So you will find that for professional courses, the professional has to dress a certain way. Sometimes it's determined by convention, and if you're looking at medicine or engineering, then it's determined by health and safety concerns. But there's this idea that to be a professional, you can't just dress however it is you like. So you want to be a professional lawyer, you can't just show up to work in jeans, a t-shirt, and canvas or tennis shoes. So you have to dress a certain way. And so that idea applies to we wedding planners as well. And when I had this first session with Laura Michael Phillips people, that's her inaugural class, that was maybe 3 or 4 years back, we riffed on some ideas about how wedding planners should dress. Now remember that this was something that was aimed at wedding planners, but you'll find that the ideas that we're teasing out here apply to other people as well, whether you are a photographer or a cake artist. So anyway, I was happy with how the session went, and so I just penned down a couple of the ideas that we came up with, and I've used that as a template for my sessions ever since. So we'll just go over them. Now, there were some members in the class who were of the opinion that as a wedding planner, you ought to dress corporate. And when they say corporate, they mean a gown or a business suit. And there's some people who said, no, corporate is too stuffy. It doesn't blend with my personality. You're supposed to do corporate casual. There are some people who said it's not necessarily about being corporate or corporate casual, but the bottom line is to be presentable, no matter what it is you wear. But the class was unanimous at the time anyway. Now that they're wedding planners and doing their thing, maybe their opinion has changed. But at the time, they were unanimous that for a wedding planner, to be professional means no jeans and no t-shirts. But then I pointed out that this whole thing about professional dressing, regardless of whatever it is that you feel and whatever the cultures are, you also have to take the social context and the work context into play. And so with that in mind, they agree that, okay, on the wedding day, it might make sense for the wedding planner to show up in jeans and a t-shirt because she's running up and down and she's making sure that everything is tip-top shape, and she has to get manual, has to get physical with her hands. Although I must admit that for my friend Laura Michael Phillips, I have never seen her in that kind of garb. I mean, so she shows up, let me say smart casual, between smart casual and corporate. And that's how she is pretty much throughout the whole day. So I guess it would depend on you. But given that context, I don't think the mother of the bride or anybody would think you unprofessional if on that wedding morning, while the finishing touches were being put on the hall, you were in your jeans and a t-shirt. Although most other wedding planners I know seem to pull that off on the wedding day, as in they show up with the jeans and the t-shirt looking like a house girl, and then somewhere between everybody going to church and people coming back, they've disappeared, they've had a bath, and then they're glammed up looking like a member of the family or as wedding guests. So the same applies whether you're a photographer or a cake artist. So these are the considerations that you need to have. Should it be corporate, corporate casual, the whole idea about being presentable? There is a lot to consider. So it's not just a matter of let me be me and let me be authentic and let me live my best life and all these other funny things that people tout over on blogs and podcasts these days. So there is a manner of dressing that is professional, and that is determined according to your discipline. It's determined according to the context, and sometimes it is also determined by the relationships, the establishing relationships or the intending relationships that are on ground. And that's also something I wanted the newbie wedding planners to realize, that how you dress when you are dealing with a new client is not the same as when you're dealing with an old client. And of course, I pointed out that it's not the same when you're doing field work. So it is not uncommon to start off all nice and spiffy and professional when everybody is new and we're still filling each other out. But by the time you have planned, 4 or 5 weddings for the family, let's say they have 6 kids. Okay, like in my friend Manny's case, there's a family that has 5 boys, or I think 6 boys, and he has already planned half the weddings. So if he was to show up in a meeting and he was wearing, corporate casual or dressed down or jeans and t-shirt, it might not be that much of an issue because, hey, it's Manny, we know his work. He has already handled 3 out of the weddings of our 6 sons, so it's no biggie. So, new client, old client, it depends, and sometimes culture. Because there was a member of the class who was Yoruba and said that if she was dealing with an older Yoruba couple, then she wouldn't be thinking in terms of corporate casual and all that, but she would be thinking deferential because she's dealing with an older couple. So, whatever it is that she decided on, whether it's corporate or corporate casual or informal, her primary concern would be to appear deferential to the older couple. So in that case, even if she had the suit on, before she goes in, she might unbutton the suit or leave the suit in the car or something. It's just the whole idea behind deference is to show, position yourself as, forgive me, I can't find the right words. If I say of lower status, that is not the right idea that I'm trying to pass across. Okay, let me just leave it as deferential. So depending on the culture, you're dealing with an elderly Yoruba couple and you're a young Yoruba woman or a young Yoruba man, then you will try to dress and appear deferential when dealing with your elders. So yeah, so that's it about dress. And what was the second item? Punctuality. Okay, yes. That for Nigerian courses, law, accounting, medicine, and engineering, there's also an agreement about the need for a professional to be punctual. So for lawyers, 10 o'clock is supposed to be 10 o'clock, but of course, it's notorious in Nigeria that lawyers are bad timekeepers. Accountants do a whole lot better because we all know that at the committee meetings, when everybody shows up, the first person to be there and the person who is angry and nagging that everybody else is not keeping to time happens to usually be the accounting person. And then for medicine, things have to run in tip-top shape because if you don't do that, you build up related costs for the overall medical practice. So, things just have to run on time. And the same thing for engineering. If you are not on time, then the scope and costs of the overall project could explode. And if that happens, but you only collected 1 billion from the client, but then you end up spending 1.2 billion, you're pretty much on your own, because it'll be a stretch trying to take them to court to say, yes, this is what we agreed on, but because I was sloppy, this is what we ended up doing, so that'll be a stretch. Anyway, so for wedding planners, for wedding and event industry professionals, it's the same. We also have to be punctual as well. What does punctuality mean? I will leave it up for you guys to decide. But for people like me who have a problem of not being able to be on time for anything, that's a problem that I have. What I do is I just make sure that I am early for everything, and that's one of the reasons why, even though in my personal life people will say Tabishima is sloppy and is never on time, you'll find that in professional circles, if you ask about me, I'm always on time. And that's because for me, let's say the event starts for 10 a.m. I actually plan to leave the house earlier, maybe 9 or maybe 8:30, because things happen and sometimes maybe there's a bit of traffic. But the bottom line is, if you plan to leave for 9 o'clock or 8:30 and things go wrong. You might find yourself actually strolling into the venue at 9:30 when things are supposed to start for 10. And in Nigeria, we're used to wedding and event photographers being late anyway. So if you consistently show up at 9:30 every time for a 10 o'clock event, people are going to think you are a stand-up guy, and your reputation will end up preceding you. And it makes business easier in the long run, because for some of my corporate clients, there's this Nigerian time thing that they do. Let's say the event is supposed to start for 10. Photographers have a reputation for being late, so they'll tell you the photographer 8 because they expect you to be late. Now, in the beginning, I knew that they were playing these games, but I just used to humor them anyway. I would say, really, just tell me the real time and I'll be there, but we would still end up playing these games. And I just kept on showing up as and when requested. So I would show up at 8 and have to wait for 2 hours before the event would start. But that's okay, because I always have some study material or podcast that I'm going to listen to, or I'll come with my computer and then I'm editing some jobs that I haven't fulfilled and delivered on yet. So so after a while, if you're dealing with regular clients in the corporate space, they just kind of get that, okay, this guy, he's always on time. If you tell him 8, he'll be there 8. And so I'm now at that stage in the relationship with some of them where they actually tell me the real time. They tell me 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock is 9 o'clock. The program starts at 9. So just go ahead with it, because it's going to make your job a whole lot better, especially if you do a good job of keeping in touch with your brides and grooms, and you start broadening your circles and doing other stuff like corporate and other kinds of things. You'll make your life easier when you have that sort of a reputation. For instance, there's another family in Abuja that I've done, I'm not sure how many now. I didn't handle the wedding, but I ended up doing, birthday parties, baptisms, portrait shoots, introductions, blah, blah, blah. So, this a family like that I have that relationship with. And so, so for them, they tell it to me like it is. 8 o'clock is 8, 9 is 9, or 10 is 10. Regardless of whatever they say, I do my best to be on time. So like Ice Cube said, if you have a problem with being on time, then always be early. But bottom line is, you can't be a professional lawyer, accountant, doctor, engineer, wedding planner, carpenter, plumber, whatever it is. You can't be a professional golfer, basketball player, whatever it is. You can't be a professional if you're always late. No matter how talented you are, if you're always late, it kind of casts an aspersion on your character. Like, this guy is, well, he's talented, but, you get as he be. So, I will wrap it up here today regarding dress and punctuality. So now, I hope you guys are beginning to appreciate that there's a lot that we can learn from and glean from when we use this working definition approach and saying, what does professionalism mean? Professionalism means whatever lawyers, accountants, medical doctors, and engineers say is professional, because there's a lot that we can learn from that. So, thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer Tabishima Ayide. I am going to wrap up this recording now and start doing all the back-end functions to make sure that everything uploads nicely and correctly. And hopefully, we're not going to have to repeat this episode again, so that the next recording, we will move on to communication and case management, which are also hallmarks of our brothers and sisters in the professional courses, in quote, of law, accounting, medicine, and engineering. They have this idea that you have to communicate clearly, and you have to be clear about what the specifications are and what expectations are, and that you also need to have a case management method, whether you're going to use files or diaries or logs or calendars or flow charts or whiteboards, whatever it is that you use in your own profession. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. I will catch you guys on the next recording.